All right, guys, let's try this again. Having some technical difficulties here. Today's weekly Wednesday live, I want to talk to you about grocery shopping. So before you sign off because you think this topic is super boring or not relevant for you, I just want to say that in my years of working with clients, I found that one of the biggest obstacles to eating healthier food or improving your nutrition is the grocery store. So even if we have really great intentions on cooking more of our own food at home, making more meals, making better choices, if we never have fresh food around the house, we're not going to be able to make that happen. So I encourage you, if you struggle to find time to make it to the grocery store, or you feel like you're wasting your time and money when you're there, to keep listening. I'm going to give you a little bit of my own backstory with how I became a better grocery shopper, and then I'm going to share the 4 tips that I think are most helpful when it comes to developing a good grocery store routine. So a little bit about my backstory. So I first learned how to cook when I was moving into my first apartment, which happened the summer after my freshman year of college. For the first time in my life, I had to prepare all of my own food. I couldn't rely on the dining hall or on my parents, and I didn't want to eat out at restaurants all the time. Around the same time, I also decided to start improving my nutrition so that I could lose weight. So all of these things were happening at the same time, and I needed to figure out a good strategy for making healthy meals that were easy, and that I could take with me to school, and that were easy to prepare. So the first thing that I had to do, of course, was go to the grocery store and buy food. I remember the first time I went to the store was actually with my dad, who was around helping me move into my apartment. And we were at the store for like an hour and a half. We were there for a really long time, and it was just extremely overwhelming. Now, of course, I had been in grocery stores before, but I never had to make all of the decisions to feed myself for an entire week, especially with my new emphasis on eating healthy or trying to figure out what that meant for me. So I bought a ton of food that I ended up throwing away because produce goes bad after a while and I just wasn't using it. I bought a lot of stuff that I really didn't need at the house, like chips and things that weren't doing me any favors. And then I forgot a bunch of stuff that I needed for the week. So I ended up having to go back. And on top of that, I spent a ton of money. I spent like over $100 just to feed myself for a few days. And then again, I ended up having to go back. So it was a really overwhelming and inefficient experience. Now, fast forward a few years later, I had become somehow the type of person who actually likes going to the grocery store. I like experimenting and trying out new stores and finding out which ones have the best selection or the best prices and things like that. So that's kind of a big transition from someone who had a terrible experience at the store and was really struggling to buy the things that she needed to someone now who I like the grocery store. And I know that not everyone's going to get to that point, but you can definitely make your grocery shopping experience a lot easier. So the 4 steps that I recommend to better grocery shopping. First of all is planning. So there are a few different ways to approach this, but if you're really new to home cooking or to healthy eating, I definitely recommend making a specific laid out grocery store list. This requires you to do at least a little bit of meal planning. You don't need to have 10 or 20 different recipes, but if you have some template ideas that you want to use, or you know you need specific things and you're going to have X meal on Thursday and Y meal on Friday and etc. like that, you can plan those meals out and write out exactly what you'll need. And that's going to help you, A, not forget anything, and B, not buy too much food so that you're not throwing stuff away. If you're trying out new recipes, that's where I would be really specific. Make sure you have the exact ingredients, the spices, the extra stuff that you need for the recipe. Now, if you're a little bit more experienced, and this is what I do these days, you still have sort of a grocery store list. It just might be in your head. And the way that this works is, again, largely by using meal templates. So, for example, I know that every week over the course of all my breakfasts and lunches, I'm probably going to eat 3 bell peppers by myself. So I just buy those every single week, and I know that I have some meals that I can use to use those peppers so I don't throw them away. Or another example would be every week I buy at least 10 fruits because I like to have at least 2 fruits a day. But the fruits that I buy will be different. Maybe one fruit's on sale or one fruit's in season or not in season. So I just know in my head, okay, I need 10 fruits, I need 3 bell peppers, I need, 3 cartons of tomatoes, I need a dozen eggs, and I know that those are going to get used even though I haven't specifically planned out my meals. But if you're not experienced or you're not cooking as much at home, I definitely recommend having a more specific list. Last piece about this is that you want to be accumulating pantry stuff to help make your cooking taste better and easier to do. So things like spices, oils, acids, pantry staples like oats or rice, anything that you're eating on a regular basis, just before you go to the store, or if you run out during the week, just make a quick note of that on your phone or on a grocery list so you can re-up on those kinds of things. So the next step is to have a strategy inside the store. So now you have your list or you have your mental list. I encourage you not to go to the grocery store on an empty stomach. So especially if you're trying to avoid buying junk food or trigger foods or red light foods, whatever you want to call them, if you go to the store when you're hungry, you're just going to buy all that stuff. It's going to end up in your cart whether you like it or not. So I would try, if you can, to go to the grocery store after you've eaten a meal, or to have a small snack before you go, just to take the edge off your hunger. When you're inside the store, a good strategy is to stick to the perimeter of the store. So if you walk in the store, typically you'll walk in on the right-hand side, and that's where all the produce is, the fruits and vegetables. There's usually like a bakery in the back, and then the meat and fish counters are in the back, and then there's some dairy back there too. And if you're trying to eat healthier, that's at least 80% of the foods that you're eating, I would say, maybe a little bit less. But I would try to do the vast majority of your shopping in the perimeter of the store. And then when you go into the aisles, I would rely on that grocery list. So you say, okay, I need to buy some rice, or I need to buy a can of pumpkin. I need to buy some spices. And you go right to what you need and you just grab that. If you're just wandering around the aisles, you're, again, likely to end up with chips and candy and cookies and stuff that you don't need in your cart. So stick to the perimeter of the store, don't go when you're hungry, venture into the aisles for things that you know you need, and avoid any aisles that house problem foods for you. The next thing that I recommend is to develop a routine around grocery shopping, and this has to do not with what you're buying, but with when you're actually going to the store. So humans are creatures of habit, and habits are much easier to form when they happen at kind of the same time or at predictable times. If you've tried to develop a consistent exercise routine, you know what I mean. If you're always juggling random times a day to come to the gym, it's a lot harder, unless you're already a pretty dedicated exerciser, than if you always go before work and that's just what you do, or you always go after work. So if you can always grocery shop at the same time or on the same day, it just becomes a part of your general routine. Most people like to go on the weekends, which is totally fine. That's when most of us have free time. If you can go during the week, there are some benefits. It will certainly be less crowded unless you're going immediately after work. And there's also, you might get some extra deals because grocery stores are trying to move things off the shelves when people aren't buying them as much. So you may actually save a little bit of money if you can go during the week. The other thing I would recommend is to consider going more than once a week. I go to the store twice a week. We usually do a big trip on Sundays, and then I go again Friday night, typically just to buy a couple of things to get me through the weekend. This works for me for a couple of reasons. I don't have time to go to the store during the week because I work such long hours. And going on Friday, or not buying through the weekend, means that I give myself some flexibility to make plans or go out of town, and it makes my produce a little bit fresher. So I'm not eating produce that's been in my fridge for an entire week. At most, it's going to be like 4 or 5 days. So if you can go a couple times a week, sometimes that can be really helpful to reduce food waste and make sure you're only buying the stuff that you need. So last thing that I want to say is about outsourcing. So let's say you've listened to all this, or you've tried these things before and you're still like, I hate grocery shopping, it's the worst, I don't have time for it, it just makes me miserable. That's totally fine. We live in an age where you can outsource this stuff to technology. So for a fee, so again, this does cost a little bit of extra money, but if your time is more valuable to you than this money, then I would say it's well spent. You can hire a delivery service, either a grocery delivery service, Peapod is one, Instacart is one, or a meal delivery service like a Blue Apron, HelloFresh. I can't remember some of the others, Green Kitchen, I think, or Sun Kitchen, but there's so many of them out there. They will send you food to your house, so you don't have to go to the store. And these range pretty widely from, again, a grocery delivery service where you're making a list online and someone's picking those items out and bringing it to you, and then you'll still have to do all the cooking, to like a Blue Apron would be you'd pick a meal, you'd pick a number of meals for the week, and they send you the exact portioned ingredients for that meal and only for that meal. So you still have to cook it, but you will not have any leftover ingredients or anything that you have to figure out how to use. And then there are some that will send you fully made meals that all you have to do is pop them in the microwave. So do some research, ask your friends. I know personally, like my mom uses these. I have a lot of good friends that use them. So if I wanted to figure out what would be best for me, all I'd have to do is go out and ask people. And I'm sure you could do the same. But this can be a really great option, even if it's only for part of the week, if you're really still struggling to go to the store. Don't be afraid to do this. It's not cheating. If it's going to help you stay on track and make better choices, then it's a great use of your money, I would say. So just to summarize, grocery shopping is often like the biggest obstacle to making healthier choices, cooking more food at home, all of the stuff that you need to do if you want to lose weight, look better, gain muscle, feel better, anything where you need to keep an eye on your nutrition. So if you can figure out how to make grocery shopping easier, more fun, more efficient, you're going to experience a lot faster progress towards your goals. So go in with a plan, either make a detailed list or after a little bit of experience, have some sort of mental list that you do every week. Make sure you're re-upping on pantry staples and stuff like that. Don't go to the store hungry, and when you're there, try to stick to the perimeter of the store and only go in the aisles for stuff that you need. Develop some sort of consistent routine where you're going at the same time on the same day, maybe a couple times a week, just so it becomes a habit and that's just what you do now. And then lastly, if you still hate going to the store, it's not an option for you for whatever reason, outsource. Use the delivery service, take advantage of technology. This stuff is awesome and it can be a huge help for you. If you guys want a little bit more help with healthy cooking, I still have my 11 easy meal templates available for download. There's a link in the Facebook blurb or in my Instagram profile if you're watching this there. It's a guide with my favorite go-to meals. I mentioned meal templates earlier. Basically, they're loose frameworks, so you can make the same kind of meal, but it tastes totally different. Use whatever ingredients you have on hand. It's a great way to reduce food waste and get a little bit creative in the kitchen. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching and have a good rest of your week.